Howdy folks, I'm Luminous Lasmala, languidly looming over lush lavender.
I'm Amber.
And here's more lush lavender for us to loom upon. So let's get started. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for asking my brother to live in my backyard shed? My brother has hit rock bottom in his life right now. He has lost everything, his marriage, custody, and his career. He was found hiring a prostitute to his office, although that is still an oversimplification of all the bad decisions that he made the last couple of years. I invited him to move over to Phoenix to live with me and start over again. I want him to stay in the shed in our backyard, which has a loft, a kitchen, a living room, a bathroom, and even a washing machine dryer combo. He told me that he was hurt that I didn't want him to live in my house, which has 4 bedrooms, even though my partner and I only have one teenage son. He reasoned that he raised me up and saved for me to go to college and eventually live a life that I could not have imagined when I was a little kid. Everything that he said was true, and I am always grateful for him and how he raised me up, even though he was a kid himself back then. What I didn't tell him is that I'm not sure about letting my son see him drinking. He got into the habit of drinking the past few years. And I also don't know what else he could have gotten himself into after sleeping with prostitutes after all these years. So am I the jerk? Edit, thank you all for letting me know the correct names of the tiny living space in the backyard. My real estate agent called it a shed, so we've been calling it a shed ever since. And yes, it's air conditioned. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. Now, if we were talking about like a garden shed, like that is not fit for human habitation, like filled with rusty old tools and stuff, yeah, that would be kind of crummy to offer someone that as a living space. But this is a full-on tiny home, like fully furnished with like all the amenities. I get it's not huge, but like it's a perfectly valid living space.
If that's shed living, sign me up. I don't think I mind. What OP has is a villa or a guest house. They don't have a shed, a she shed. I don't know. I think like maybe he's envisioning something different, and maybe if OP assuages his fear and says, oh, this isn't like a punishment or anything like that. This is just kind of your own private space where you're able to kind of live privately and do whatever you want, right?
Well, yeah, that's one of my questions I have for OP is, have you detailed what this is like? Or have you just said, yeah, you can live in my shed in the backyard? Because, like, if you haven't made that clear, brother may have a completely different idea in mind.
Yeah. He might be like, oh, why is she making me live in like a little like 10 foot by 10 foot space that's full of garden supplies, right? Like if someone said that I could come and stay in their shed, I would have a very different image of what a shed would be.
Yeah, well, exactly. But, and he may just be feeling isolated and whatnot.
Yeah.
And is like, I think important to make it clear to him, like, yes, you do not want him living in the main house, but you still like care about him and support him as much as you do. I mean, it sounds like he's made some very bad decisions though, and that is worth acknowledging. And you are very well within your right to not want your children exposed to his alcoholism and stuff like that.
But also, like if I were him, I think I would prefer my own little private space. Yeah. I mean, seems like that's like a golden deal right there, right?
Well, honestly, if I were him, I'd just be glad that there was anyone who's still talking to me, because OP, could very well have cut him off for this. And I wouldn't blame OP for not wanting to get involved in this. And because it sounds like the brother has done some very bad and very hurtful things.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Pretty Necessary 941 says, not the jerk. By the way, if it has a loft, a kitchen, and a living room, and a bathroom, and even a washing machine and dryer combo, then it's not a shed. And OP replies, it's smaller than 200 square feet though. In total awareness, 5013 says, it's free, plenty big enough. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like, just because people don't have money doesn't mean they shouldn't be entitled to like adequate living spaces, which is what I'm a little bit afraid with that comment. Like, again, this is a perfectly adequate living space because it has all the like necessities of living.
Yeah.
But if OP was offering an actual garden shed, that would be, not a cool thing.
Yeah.
Because while it maybe it's marginally better than the element, it's not a real like fit for human habitation.
Yeah. And Mom T Rex says, not the jerk, but why are you calling it a shed? That just feeds into his delusion. I think that they are called an ado, also known as granny units, which means an accessory dwelling unit, a second, smaller living unit on a single family residential lot. He should be grateful to have anything. And Opie replies, I think he sensed my concerns, but interpreted as I look down on him. And then everyone just telling Opie it's not a shed. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for ditching my friend at an airport for doing a stupid prank? I went overseas with 3 friends. We live in the US. One of them was having her partner picking her up when we were getting back home. I was the ride home for the other friend. We are about an hour away from the airport. He had this bright idea to quote-unquote joke when going through immigration that when the officer asked where we're coming from, he thought that it would be real funny to tell him North Korea. We went to Seoul, South Korea. So we are all getting pulled into secondary questioning because of this dumb guy. They let me and my other friend out when we showed our passports, itinerary, credit card activity, showing that we had been in Seoul the entire time, and they let us go. They kept the moron back for about 2 to 3 hours before letting him go. I just went straight home and refused to wait for him. It was late, so he had to get a hotel by the airport and then rent a car to get back home. He says that I should have waited for him. I say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You're lucky you didn't go to prison or have your passport revoked. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. He did something that was very irresponsible and everyone had to pay a little bit for it.
Yeah.
He's lucky the consequences weren't steeper. And so Opie had no idea how long the friend was even going to be there too. On top of that, so I think it was ridiculous to expect Opie to just wait around and pick up after his mistake.
Yeah, he was detained and was going to be detained for quite a long time. And he's lucky he got out that night, right? So I think it was a really poor judgment thing for him to do here, right? And I understand OP's frustration. And if I were OP, I would have probably done the same thing because he just made me lose time by getting pulled into a back room because of a quote-unquote joke he's made, right?
Right. Well, and he could have gotten OP like on a "you're going to now get background checks at the airport forever" list with this nonsense.
If OP hasn't already been put on that list now, thanks to him, right? Like, OP may now be on a watch list, and he might be on a no-fly list for all he knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say don't fly with this guy again. If you want a vacation with him, take separate flights, but do not go with him.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's friend has earned. Divorce.
I mean, a friend divorce may be in order here.
Yes, a friend divorce may be in order here. And Red Tollman says, it was late, so he had to go get a hotel by the airport and then rent a car to get back home. Why? No Uber or taxi in your neighborhood? And OP replies, like I said, the airport is an hour away from where we lived. And Christine Bitg says, an Uber would have been cheaper than a hotel room. And OP replies, you're talking about a dude who thought that it would be a funny joke to joke about going to North Korea. Who knows what was in this guy's head? Yeah. Yeah. And Stop Spinning Like That says, for me, the top 2 situations for not ever pulling a prank would be 1, at the airport, 2, when being held at gunpoint. In that order. You're not the jerk. And String Grandom says, at the airport, any border crossing or immigration check. He messed around and found out. Border and immigration people do not mess around in any country. Yeah, like, what was this guy thinking? And Pokey No No says, it's not like there aren't multiple TV shows from a number of countries featuring what happens when you lie or omit information at border crossings, quarantine checks, and when going through customs. And Elfan2 says, during the pandemic, I lived for watching those shows on Friday nights. So entertaining. I love when people pretended that they had no idea that they were carrying kilos of drugs. And Pokey No No says, Where did that bag of sausages and poorly taxidermied rodent come from? I forgot to declare the apples, seeds, and plant cuttings I have from banned plants. I know I signed a declaration stating that I wasn't carrying plants, animals, oviducts, etc., but I didn't think that you meant my plants, etc. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Calling the Kids Rude for Taking All of the Samples at Costco? I was shopping at Costco with my 2-year-old son in the shopping cart. There was the sample lady almost done cutting up an apple, so I waited for her to finish, as a few other people were as well. As soon as she placed them on the table, these 2 young boys, maybe ages 7 or 8, swoop in and take all the samples. I was appalled. Everyone else was in disbelief as well. A lady even said out loud, "Did they just take all of the samples?" I saw them take their samples back to their mom's shopping cart, so I walked by them and I said it was awfully rude not to leave any samples for anyone else to try. Their mom heard this and told me to F off because they are free and that the lady will just cut some more. I feel a little bad because they are just kids, and that behavior was clearly taught by their feral mother, but I believe they also needed to be told that it was incredibly rude. The sample lady cut some more and gave me the first one so that I could give it to my son, so all was well in the end. And I understand that they're just apples, but some parents are just ridiculous. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I don't think Opie's in the wrong. Like, I do think it's important to talk to the kids. Like, Opie's right that the kids probably, learn this behavior from their parent. Their mom seems to condone it. And it's important to understand that just because something is technically free doesn't mean you can have as much as you want. Like if you're at a potluck, just because the food is free doesn't mean you take the entire roast or whatever. Learning to share and communal foods is important.
Yeah, well, free samples are 1 per person generally, right? And that's really just how it goes. And I mean, this is something that you learn as a kid because oh, well, I want some more. And your parents are like, no, it's just 1 per person or something like that, right? It's rude to take more than 1 per person. It's just poor etiquette, right? And I think that the kids do need to know this because when they grow up, no one's going to look at this as oh, haha, they're just kids anymore, right? They're going to be like, you're a rude individual. No, what are you doing?
Right, and some of these isn't intuitive, and so it's important for people to explicitly tell if kids aren't getting it.
Yeah.
Because etiquette can sometimes be confusing, and you can be like, oh, this is free, so that means I can take as much as I want. It's important to let kids know, hey, this is not how we do things. Just because it's free, there's still a limit.
Yeah, well, it's a sample, not a free product, right? They would, if they wanted you to have the free product, they would put it out as free, right? They didn't. It's a sample.
Well, we got free apples from our grocery store.
Yeah, they gave us a free apple once, or 2 free apples.
They did.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Chattahoochee River Rat says, not the jerk at all. Sometimes a little public shaming is a good thing. And Dick Wagon, 1983, says, unfortunately, the people who deserve it the most do not care how vile they appear in public. And Chattahoochee River Rat says, sad but true. However, others within earshot might have picked up on the lesson. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Making My Son Pay for His School Lunch for the Rest of the Year? I have 3 kids, all in high school. I used to give everyone $20 a week to pay for school lunch, and it's enough to have some extra snacks. They all were able to budget well. The school then all went to digital and stopped taking cash. They need to swipe their ID, and money gets put into their account. The system is a pain in the butt and only allows you to do large amounts into it. So for all the kids, I did enough to make it through the whole school year. It was $1,000 each. This is around $200 extra than what they actually need. I made it very, very clear that this is for the whole school year and only for lunch. The school also has some vending machines that take the IDs as well. These vending machines are very expensive. A Pop-Tart in it is $4, for example, and an energy drink is $5. The school also has a cafe that serves expensive stuff. Everything is $5 to $10 in there, and a bagel is $8. My kids are all in sports and they know that they need to pack extra snacks and meals on sports days from our house. The issue is my son, a 16-year-old, and I got a notification that his school balance was in the negative. He was not packing any snacks and eating breakfast at the school cafe. He's around 50 in the hole right now. he needs around $500 extra to afford lunch, and I gave him two options. He can pay for it out of his own money, or he packs a lunch every day. He chose to pay for it and is very unhappy. I already transferred the money out of his account for the school account. And I know that he is unhappy, but X is mad at me. I told them to pay for the lunch themselves if they have an issue with it. I need some opinions. Edit from the comment. He has budgeted large amounts before. For example, he bought himself a gaming computer that was over $2,000. He has a job and we've given him a good amount of money for a long time. He knows how to budget and save. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. And I think the key thing here is that OP is still giving him an option to be fed.
Yeah.
So if there was absolutely no way for the kid to be fed and like, okay, you have to pay out the money, that would have been too much. But OP is saying, well, you can pack lunches if you want to, or you can pay it. A packed lunch is a perfectly acceptable lunch. He's choosing not to do packed lunch and to pay so he has, more desirable lunches. That's on him.
Yeah, I mean, if OP was denying him food at all, that would be one thing, but OP has given him an option and says, well, you need to pack your own lunch. And I think that this is kind of a lesson for the future, that maybe OP should put smaller quantities of money into these.
Yeah, well, I think it's a twofold lesson. One, that OP has to recognize that kids are kids and, maybe give them only enough money for the month. So if one month runs out, it's less of a big deal than the entire year. And it's also a valuable lesson to him to keep his eye on how much these foods cost, because if he goes off to college and is living in the dorm, the cafeteria foods can add up very quickly.
Yeah.
And so it is important to understand that there is a real cost here.
Yeah, I think that the school not taking cash is a ripoff here, right? They just need to accept cash. I don't know why they're not.
Well,
right?
and then having that you can use the vending machines with your lunch card. I feel like those should be separate things.
Well, and the thing, we know that credit cards, for instance, are less painful for people to use. And these kinds of cards where they don't actually see, the actual, physical cash. So I think that they're not doing these kids any favor by, using credit cards and stuff like that to buy the lunches.
Right. Well, because there's no concept. If you have a set amount of cash you're working with, you can see it going. But credit cards, or these kind of cards, it all happens behind the scenes. If you're not keeping your eyeball on the balance every day, it doesn't even feel like you're paying money.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she has a joke.
What's the best day of the week to eat ice cream?
I would say Sunday, because it's because of Sundays.
Yeah, Sunday. And it's National Sunday Day and National Origami Day.
There's only one problem with that, Amber, is today is a Tuesday.
Well, yes, but
tonight's Tuesday night.
But tonight's Tuesday night. Sundae Sunday Day.
I think that they planned poorly. That should have been on a Sunday.
I mean, a Sunday would have made more sense.
It would have. It absolutely would have. And I have a special guest tea, some matcha. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy terrific Tuesday, spelled TWO. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on bad decisions.
Don't joke around at airports.
Yeah, it's a bad decision.
That is a very bad decision.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.